evolve as each generation transitions to the next. In fact, the history and the future of humanity can be seen as just the aggregate of all the individual life stories evolving through time. I saw these stories flow together as one all-encompassing story from the beginning of recorded history up to this moment, with the same things happening over and over again for basically the same reasons while still evolving. By seeing many interlinking cases evolve together, I could see the patterns and the cause-effect relationships that govern them and could imagine the future based on what I learned. These events happened many times throughout history and were parts of a cycle of rises and declines of empires and most aspects of empires. For example, their education levels, their levels of productivity, their levels of trade with other countries, their militaries, their currencies, and other markets, and so on. Each of these aspects, or powers, transpired in cycles, and they were all interrelated. For example, nations' levels of education affected their levels of productivity, which affected their levels of trade with other countries, which affected the levels of military strength required to protect trade routes, which together affected their currencies and other markets, which affected many other things. Their movements together made up the economic and political cycles that occurred over many years. For example, a very successful empire or dynasty could have its cycle last 200 or 300 years. All the empires and dynasties I studied rose and declined in a classic big cycle that has clear markers that allow us to see where we are in it. This big cycle produces swings between first, peaceful and prosperous periods of great creativity and productivity that raise living standards a lot, and, alternatively, depression, revolution, and war periods when there is a lot of fighting over wealth and power and a lot of destruction of wealth, life, and other things we cherish. I saw that the peaceful, creative periods last much longer than the depression, revolution, war periods, typically by a ratio of about 5 to 1. So one could